the plane that shouldn't still exist, and why it does. The A-10 Warthog was built to kill Soviet tanks across European plains. It was never meant to hunt boats. Yet right now, over the Strait of Hormuz, this aircraft from the 1970s is targeting Iranian fast attack vessels and mine layers. The Air Force has tried to retire it for decades. Iran is finding out why it couldn't. In 1972, the U.S. Air Force put two prototypes head-to-head in a contest shaped by the failures of Vietnam and the looming threat of Soviet armor in Europe. The requirements were clear and uncompromising: a maximum speed of 460 miles per hour, the ability to take off from a 4,000-foot strip, and a payload of up to 16,000 pounds, numbers that left little room for the sleek, high-tech fighters dominating the era. Survivability was not a suggestion, but a mandate. The winning design had to withstand hits from 23mm shells, keep flying with damaged hydraulics, and deliver accurate firepower at low altitude while supporting troops under fire. Fairchild Republic Y. A-10 took its first flight at Edwards Air Force Base on May 10, 1972. Northrop Rye A-9 followed 20 days later. Both met the Air Force baseline needs, but the Y-A-10 configuration stood out. It had twin General Electric TF-34 engines mounted high to avoid ground fire, a straight wing for slow speed control, and a cockpit protected by a titanium bathtub. Test pilots and evaluators noted the ease of maintenance and the aircraft's ability to absorb punishment that would ground other jets. Toughness and firepower were prioritized over speed or elegance. The decisive moment came on January 18, 1973. After months of flight tests and analysis, the Air Force announced its choice. The YA-10 would become the A-10 Thunderbolt II. The official selection memo cited the aircraft's superior payload, lower projected sustainment cost, and unmatched survivability. In a world moving toward faster, more expensive jets, the Air Force had chosen a low-tech, purpose-built brawler, one engineered not for air superiority, but for survival and lethality on the battlefield. The logic was blunt. A plane that could take hits, keep flying, and deliver devastating firepower would save lives when the shooting started. No other combat aircraft is so physically defined by its primary weapon. The GAU-8A Avenger, a 7-barrel, 30mm Gatling cannon, sits at the literal heart of the A-10. Weighing nearly 2,000 pounds, about 16% of the jet's empty weight, the gun dictated the shape, balance, and structure of the entire airframe. Engineers reinforced the forward fuselage with a steel box section spine, aligning the engines and thrust line directly with the gun's bore to ensure stability when firing. Removing the cannon in maintenance is not simple. The A-10's tail must be jacked up before the gun comes out, otherwise the aircraft risks tipping backward on its rear bulkheads. The ammunition drum, holding roughly 1,150 rounds of 30mm shells, extends deep under the cockpit, feeding the Avenger at a blistering 3,900 rounds per minute. Each burst generates a recoil force of about 10,000 pounds, more than the thrust of one of the A-10's TF-34 engines. Yet the airframe's mass and the twin engines absorb the shock, limiting deceleration to a manageable few knots per firing. This gun aircraft symbiosis is no accident. The A-10's entire design, from landing gear placement to pilot sightlines, exists to serve the Avenger's purpose, delivering precise, overwhelming firepower at low altitude under fire. Maintenance crews learned early that the aircraft's balance and survivability depended on the gun staying in place. The tailjack procedure became standard, a small but telling detail in the Warthog's operational DNA. The result is a platform where weapon and airframe are inseparable, an engineered answer to the problem of stopping tanks, and as recent years have shown, a solution that keeps finding new targets. Armor isn't just a design feature on the A-10, it's a survival plan written in titanium and steel. The cockpit sits inside a 1,200-pound titanium shell, angled to deflect ground fire from nearly every direction. Flight-critical systems are doubled up, and the fuel tanks are self-sealing and cushioned by foam. But the real test of this engineering came over Baghdad in April 2003, when then Captain Kim Campbell's A-10 was hit by enemy fire. Both hydraulic systems failed, the tail was shredded, and control surfaces were jammed. Campbell switched to manual reversion, using only mechanical linkages to keep the jet steady. With no hydraulics and a battered airframe, she guided the Warthog back to base and landed safely. Maintenance logs recorded more than 350 holes in the fuselage and tail. The jet never lost its engines, never lost the pilot. In a world of fragile, high-tech fighters, the A-10's ability to limp home turns theory into lived experience. Proof that survivability isn't just a promise, but a record written in flight hours and battle damage. On February 25, 1991, two A-10 pilots, Captain Eric Solomonson and Lieutenant John Marks, flew 3 attack sorties over Kuwait's Medina Ridge. In a single day, their aircraft destroyed 23 Iraqi tanks, using a mix of cannon fire and Maverick missiles. This was not an isolated feat. Throughout Operation Desert Storm, the A-10 fleet flew 8,100 sorties, accounting for the destruction of 987 tanks, 2,000 other vehicles, and 1,200 artillery pieces. The Warthog became the backbone of close air support, launching 90% of all Maverick missiles fired in the conflict. But these successes came at a price. 6 A-10s were lost in combat, and 2 pilots did not return. The aircraft's effectiveness against armored columns was proven, yet the losses underscored its vulnerability in heavily defended airspace. The numbers from Desert Storm validated the A-10's design for tank busting, but also exposed the cost of operating a low-flying attack jet in a modern battlefield, setting the stage for the ongoing debate over its future. Every shot fired from the A-10's GAU-8 cannon costs a fraction of what a missile strike demands. The standard 30mm round runs about $5,000 to $6,000 each, while a single AGM-65 Maverick missile averages $80,000. Precision-guided bombs like the GBU-54 JDAM fall somewhere in between, at $25,000 per kit. This difference isn't just a matter of accounting, it shapes how the A-10 is used in the field. When facing swarms of small, fast-moving boats or cheap drones, the ability to deliver accurate, high-volume fire at minimal cost becomes a decisive advantage. The Warthog's endurance also matters. It can loiter for hours, covering ground troops or patrolling shipping lanes, without burning through multi-million-dollar munitions or requiring constant refueling. In an era where fifth-generation jets carry price tags north of $80 million each, the A-10's economics make it uniquely suited for persistent, affordable firepower. The numbers put pressure on any argument for retiring the fleet, especially when budgets tighten and threats multiply. Congressional resistance to the Air Force's retirement plans took shape in a series of National Defense Authorization Acts between 2023 and 2026. Each year, lawmakers inserted language that set a hard floor for the A-10 fleet, first at 100 aircraft in 2023, then raised to 103 by 2024. a number that would hold through September 30th, 2026. The text was not ambiguous. No A-10 could be retired, transferred, or scrapped if it would drop the fleet below that minimum. Representative Jack Huang of California, a veteran of the House Armed Services Committee, led the initial charge, arguing on the floor that the Warthog's blend of survivability and firepower made it irreplaceable for missions over the Persian Gulf. Senators Pat Murray and Jack Reed later expanded the protections, citing the aircraft's unique ability to loiter low, deliver precision fire, and absorb damage. These were capabilities that newer jets, for all their stealth and speed, could not match in the close-in, high-threat environment of the Strait of Hormuz. The Air Force's own budget requests, which omitted $423 million in sustainment funding for 2026, only sharpened the divide. By the time hostilities flared with Iran, the A-10's continued presence was not just a matter of sentiment or inertia. It was the result of explicit legal mandates championed by a handful of lawmakers who saw in the Warthog a tool the Pentagon could not afford to discard. This political standoff preserved an option the military would soon need, whether it wanted it or not. March 2026 brought the A-10's paradox into sharp relief. 12 Thunderbolt IIs, flown in from RAF Lakenheath, began round-the-clock sorties over the Strait of Hormuz. Each aircraft carried a hybrid arsenal, AGM-65 Maverick missiles for larger patrol boats, APKWS-2 laser-guided rockets for swarming fast attack craft, and the ever-present 30mm cannon. The crews flew at low altitude, weaving between commercial traffic and coastal islands, targeting IRGC boats laying mines or harassing tankers. By mid-March, CENTCOM confirmed over 120 fast attack boats and 44 mine layers neutralized by A-10 fire missions. Sortie rates exceeded 60 per day, with aircraft refueled and rearmed on makeshift ramps near the water's edge. The combination of Maverick strikes and cannon runs proved decisive against dispersed, low-profile targets that had eluded more expensive jets. Even after an A-10 was lost on April 3rd, the fleet maintained full operational tempo, sustaining persistent patrol coverage that forced Iranian commanders to scatter or abort attacks. In a theater defined by asymmetric threats and narrow margins, the Warthog's old logic, survive, loiter, strike, once again outperformed the high-tech alternatives. The 2026 campaign offered live proof that relevance in combat is measured by results, not by age or by the price tag on the airframe. Right now, 68 A-10s remain in active U.S. service, surviving not because of nostalgia, but because $19,000 per flight hour still solves problems that $80 million stealth jets cannot. In a world of shifting threats, relevance is not about age. It is about answering the mission when nothing else does.